morning to all. Here is the second part of our chapter, the fundamental unit of life. And in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the parts of the cell and the cell organelles in detail. So stay focused. So, firstly, coming to the recapitulation, what we have learned in the last previous lesson. What are cells? It is a basic unit of the living organism. Living organisms can be plants, can be animals, can be microorganisms. So, what does the cell theory states? It states that all the living organisms are made up of one or more cell. If they are made up of one cell, they are known as unicellular cells, and if they are made up of more cells, they are known as multicellular organism. It is the basic unit of all the living organisms, and all cells come from the pre-existing cells. There are two type of the cells based upon their nuclear content. One is this is the prokaryotic cell, and another one is the eukaryotic cell. So everything is common between the two cell. It is having a cell membrane, it is a cytoplasm, organelles are there, and DNA, which is a genetic material present. So coming to the cell differentiation, we know that every cell is performing a specific function, right? The cell which is having the same structure, same function, and a common origin, they are combining to form tissues, and that process is known as cell differentiation. For example, we are having an example of the heart cell, which is going to perform a specific function, and there is a skin cell that is performing specific function. Coming to the today's part, cell. There are three components of the cell as we have discussed in the last video also. It is a cell membrane, which is the outer covering of the cell. It is also known as plasma membrane, which nature is semi-permeable, and the another one is the cytoplasm, in which the cell organelles and cell inclusions are floating, and the third one is the nucleus, that is the brain of the cell. Cell organelles include endoplasmic reticulum, where the lipids and the proteins are manufactured. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It is going to generate the energy for the cell to perform the various functions. Golgi apparatus. It helps in the packaging and dispatching of the material synthesized in the endoplasmic reticulum. Whatever is endoplasmic reticulum is synthesizing, it is goes to the Golgi bodies, and Golgi bodies is going to dispatch it. Ribosomes are the protein factories. It is going to synthesize proteins. Lysosomes are the suicidal bags of the cell. Centrosomes are present in case of the animal cell, and these are visible only during the cell division. Coming to the plastids, these are present only in case of plants, as they are going to perform the function of the photosynthesis. So here is the first part of our, this is a cell membrane. This is the outermost covering. It holds the cell together and allows the nutrients into the cell. Because its nature is semi permeable, so it allows some selected material to enter and to leave from the cell. Right, here is the structure of the cell membrane. It was given by Singer and Nicholson, and the model name is fluid mosaic model. So here you can see the structure. It is made up of a bilayer of phospholipids. Why I am saying bilayer? Because there are two layers, one this side and one this side. So it is a bilayer of phospholipids. Number one, right? The second thing, there are two types of proteins present. One is the integral protein, which are present inside the matrix. These are known as integral protein. The other name of the integral protein is intrinsic proteins. The second type of proteins are the peripheral proteins, which lie on the surface of the phospholipids, and these are also known as extrinsic proteins. So as a whole, cell membrane is composed of a bilayer of phospholipids and two types of proteins. One is integral protein and the second one is peripheral protein. Now, as we are saying that plasma membrane is semi-permeable in nature, right? So, transport can occur across a membrane, right? So, what kind of transport can occur across a cell membrane? This can be a passive transport, active transport, and here are two terms, endocytosis and exocytosis. In the passive transport, there is no use of the energy. When the substances are moving from high concentration to the low concentration, that does not require any energy. That is known as passive transport. But in case of the active transport, when the substances are moving from low concentration to the high concentration, so moving from low to high, that requires some kind of energy, that comes under the active transport. This term signifies endocytosis means something is entering into the cell. When something is entering into the cell, that is known as endocytosis. When something is leaving the cell, that is known as exocytosis. In other terms, you can say endocytosis is also cell is eating or cell is drinking. Exocytosis, cell is vomiting. So here is again a flow chart. Here you can see there's the active transport which requires energy, and passive which do not require energy. So here the substances will move from low concentration to the high concentration, and here from high to low concentration. Here the example is osmosis and diffusion. Exocytosis, this is the inside of the membrane and something is leaving the cell, so it is exocytosis. Endocytosis, this is a, consider it as a food particle, so if it is entering into the cell, then it is termed as endocytosis. Diffusion, so here you can see a large number of the particles at the corner of this one beaker. So after some time you will find that these are going to diffuse into the whole of this one until the equilibrium is reached. So this process, it does not require energy, it comes under the passive transport. You can take also the example of a perfume. When you are going to spray a perfume at the corner of the room, after some time that diffuses throughout your room and the fragrance comes, right? So this is an example of the diffusion. Osmosis, here the substances or the dilute solution which is containing a high concentration of the water molecules. Here water is more, here water is less, because there are some sucrose molecule also which act as a solute. So water will move from high concentration to the low concentration, right, across a semi permeable membrane. This is known as osmosis. In diffusion we are not talking about the semi permeable membrane, but in case of osmosis we have to talk about the semi permeable membrane and the solvent molecules, right? In the osmosis, only solvent molecules, for example water, liquid, only liquid part of the solution, it can be able to move from high concentration to the low concentration. So here is a difference between the osmosis and diffusion. As I said, diffusion, it can occur in all the mediums, it can take place in solids also, liquids also, gases also, but osmosis is limited to only liquid medium. It requires a semi-permeable membrane. Diffusion, it does not require a semi-permeable membrane. Only the solvent molecules can move. Both the molecules of solute and solvent can diffuse. The flow of particles occur only in one direction. They can move from high to low concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. That is only one direction. But here, the flow of the particles, as I told, given the example of the perfume, so it can spread in all the direction, right? This is diffusion. So coming to the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a watery gel-like fluid which is present inside the cell, and it holds all the cell organelles. You can compare the cytoplasm like the turtle's blood and the others liquid. The third one, we are having a nucleus which control all the functions of the cell. It is the largest organelle in the cell and contains the cell DNA, which is the genetic material. You can compare this nucleus is like the turtle's brain. Nucleus, there is a diagram of the nucleus, kindly see. So the outer membrane, this is a double membrane, it is known as the nuclear membrane. Nucleus is always surrounded by a double membrane, so it is a nuclear membrane. But in the membrane you are finding some pores, this one, this different, this one. So this is known as the nuclear pores. This, the thread like structure, red color, it is the chromatin, and this one, the dense body present inside the nucleus, it is nucleolus. So nucleus is having the five parts. Actually nucleoplasm is missing here. This one, the jelly like fluid present inside the nucleus, is termed as nucleolus. Coming to the nucleolus, inside the nucleus is another organelle called the nucleolus. It is responsible for making the ribosomes, chromosome which contain a nucleus and are made up of genes and of course DNA. It decides the cell traits and the other activities, for example heart cell, eye cell, such as color. Nuclear membrane, that allow the substances to pass in and out of the nucleus because it is having certain pores in it. Vacuoles are the spaces in the cytoplasm where food and chemicals are stored. In case of the plants, we have studied the vacuoles are larger in size, and in case of animals, these are small, but many vacuoles are there, right? Coming to the endoplasmic reticulum, it is a network of the membranes throughout the cytoplasm of the cell that helps to move the materials around the cell. And you can compare it is much like the blood vessels throughout a turtle. It will be more clear when we are going to see the diagram, this one, right? This is a nucleus, and this network is known as endoplasmic reticulum, ER. Now there are two types of the endoplasmic reticulum. First is rough endoplasmic reticulum, RER, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, SER. So what is the difference between rough and smooth endoplasmic? The rough endoplasmic reticulum contains the ribosomes on its surface. You can see these are the red colored small vesicles present. These are known as ribosomes. When it contains the ribosome that makes the surface rough, this is known as rough endoplasmic reticulum. But smooth endoplasmic reticulum, there are no ribosomes present, so these are known as smooth. The function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum is to make proteins because ribosomes are there, and the function of the SER to make the lipids because ribosomes are not there. Coming to the mitochondria, it is an organelle that releases the energy from the food. Right now, we are taking the food. Why we are taking the food? To get the energy. Now, where that energy is going to be produced? Inside the mitochondria, right? And energy is always produced in the form of ATP, that is known as adenosine triphosphate. So here is a diagram of the or structure of the mitochondria. You can see it is a tub-like structure. It is a double membranous. The outer one is known as outer membrane. The inside it is known as the inner membrane. So this space is known as the outer chamber, and this dotted structure or the dotted shape like chamber is known as the inner compartment. One more thing, the DNA is having the mitochondria is having its own DNA. So this is the energy reaction which takes place inside the mitochondria. Glucose, this is a food form. This is a food form. When it is oxidized, that is in the presence of oxygen, the energy is released in the form of ATP, and the byproducts like carbon dioxide and water are being released. This is the food is oxidized to release energy. Coming to the Golgi apparatus, you can see the diagram here. And as I told, whatever is going to produce in the endoplasmic reticulum, it is going to packed or dispatch that material. So you can see that is responsible for sorting and correctly shipping the proteins produced in the ER. Whatever is ER producing, that is going to manufacture, or you can say dispatch or packaging inside the ribosomes or in the form of Golgi apparatus. Vesicles. It is a small sac-like structure that surrounds the material to be moved into and outside the cells. Ribosome. These are known as a protein factories, right? These are all, you can find the ribosome attached to the ER, etc. Lysosome. Lysosomes are known as suicidal bags. Why they are known as suicidal? Because suicidal bags, sorry, because they contain some digestive enzymes which are hydrolytic in their reactions, and these are going to break down the food molecules, waste, and the worn out cell parts. So whenever cell is injured or dead, worn out cell, that becomes poisonous for our body, right? So that is need to be eliminated from it, and that is going to happen with the help of lysosomes. Cell wall. Cell wall are mainly found in case of plant cell. And one more thing, in case of plant cell, the cell wall is made up of cellulose, and that is also found in some of the fungi. And in case of fungi, it is made up of chitin. Chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are present only in case of plants, right? These are present only in case of plants, and they contain a major pigment which is known as chlorophyll that helps make energy or food from the sunlight, and that process is known as photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is green in color, and that helps the plant cell to capture the sunlight. Now, can you see the what is the difference between the two? So as you can see, this is a flower, so plant cells are there, and this is the animal cell. So what two things that a plant cell have that animal cell don't have? Plant cell have chloroplast, chloroplast will be present in case of plant cell and cell wall is present in case of plant cell. But animal do not contain chloroplast because they do not have to produce food, because it is a heterotroph, right? And cell wall is also not there in case of the animal cell. So here is the end of the chapter. Thank you so much.